I'm Jody Sanders with American Patchwork and Quilting, and today's video is being brought to you by Baby Lock. Many people come to quilting for the first time when they need to make a baby quilt. It might be for a grandchild, it might be for a baby shower, but we want to share some things with you today that you might need to consider before you make that first baby quilt. So one of the considerations you'll have is what color fabric are you going to use when you make your quilt? Well, you may want to talk to the parents of the baby and find out what color they're decorating their nursery. It's not necessarily pink and blue quilts anymore, and if you don't know ahead of time what the sex of the baby is, you may want to make a multicolor quilt. And we have an example here. This is a rail fence quilt, simple rectangles with lots of bright colors. And so this is a great choice if you need to make something quickly and you don't necessarily know what kind of decorating scheme the parents are going to have. I'm going to show you another one that's a little more modern version of maybe a traditional quilt. We're used to seeing pink and blue, as I mentioned, for baby quilts, which isn't necessarily a very popular choice with today's parents. And so kind of a modern uptake on that would be to make something with the turquoise or aqua and coral. These are very popular colors used in nurseries, and this would make a great option for a color combo if you're thinking to make a baby quilt. Another great time-saving tool is to use a panel in the center of your baby quilt. A large panel like this that has a great graphic can then have some borders added and maybe a simple piece block around the outside, and you can get this quilt finished in no time. Another option is what we call the easiest quilt ever. It's this one here in front of me. It's made with 10-inch square pre-cut blocks, and all you have to do is set these side by side and you have a quilt top done in no time. But then what do you do to finish it? In this case, we have an all-over swirl design, and it's just an all-over pattern. It doesn't take a lot of time to do. It's very free form. And if you've got a kid's quilt that's being laundered frequently, you probably don't want to spend a lot of time heirloom quilting it, but this kind of design is the perfect finish for a kid's or baby quilt. Another example of a kid's quilt is kind of an educational version of a quilt, and this is called an I Spy quilt. And what happens is every block in this quilt is a different motif. So if you have a fabric stash that you want to dig into a little bit, this is really a fun quilt to make for a child. And I just want to point out a few of the things. So we have a banana, and there's a guitar, and we also have a cow. And the fun thing about this quilt and the way it's put together is that it's very random. Some blocks are upside down, some are in their side, and it's really fun to lay it down on the floor and say to a child, I spy a banana, and then see if they can find the banana that's in the quilt. You've got your top finished, and now you need to consider what you're going to use for batting and backing. And I just want to show you an example of a great backing here today. It is a plush fabric. It's a little heavier nap than just a cotton. And in this case, sometimes those are harder to send through your machine when you're doing your machine quilting with the top and the batting and the backing. So one of the things you can do is use a walking foot. And the one here is the one that goes with this crescendo machine. This is what it looks like. They vary depending on what your machine is, but most machine companies do have a walking foot available, and so this is a great tool when you're putting your backing, your batting, and your top all together. Whether you're starting with a panel or making one with pre-cut squares or making a more complicated quilt, all of these ideas can help you as you're getting ready to make baby and kids quilts. And if you look at the bottom of the screen, you'll see a link for some free patterns.